Hi, I'm Quince. Welcome to the 11th in my series of reviews for Season 1 of the Playdate, Panic's handheld gaming console. Each week, 2 brand new games from different developers appear like magic on your Playdate system. Week 11's games are Battleship Godios and Forrest Byrnes Up in Smoke. Battleship Godios, I'm not 100% sure if I'm saying that right. Battleship Godios is a side-scrolling shooter developed by TPM Co. Soft. In terms of its presentation, this one very much takes its cues from original Game Boy games, with a little bit of retro arcade nostalgia thrown in for good measure. Also thrown in for good measure, Breakout. Yeah, if you're looking for an easy logline for this one, it's sort of like R-Type meets Breakout or something. You see, you're in a spaceship and your goal is to destroy a mothership or two on each stage by shooting their cores until they blow up. Your bullets will ricochet off of every surface, doing damage to enemy parts in the process, and it's your responsibility to catch those bullets again on their way back. If you miss, you'll lose that ammo permanently until you can find more, so it's important not to miss. Sometimes you will have a power-up that lets you catch them going the other direction, which helps. Of course, your enemies have bullets of their own, which brings us to the game's other gimmick. If you die, you get to rewind time using the crank to any previous point during that stage, kind of like you have a save state. You never have to restart the level completely until you use up all your lives. This alleviates the frustration of having to redo parts you've already beaten too many times, and it enables you to hone your skills by adjusting your maneuvers just as much as you need to in the spot you got killed to avoid getting killed again. Sometimes you might also want to or have to get killed on purpose if you manage to lose all of your bullets, because again, you're not getting those back. You're going to want to restart at an earlier point of the level. So the look of Battleship Godios is what it is. It's not what I would call a pretty game, but it does the retro thing if you're into that particular brand of retro thing. Ships and obstacles just look like gray blocks with turrets on them. It's not a terribly enthralling world, but it's functional. Along those lines, the music and sound effects are also all aggressively loud bleeps and bloops, so clearly they were going for something here, and I think they achieved it. The game is also pretty hard. Effectively taking down enemy ships requires some real pinpoint accuracy. Even though your bullets tend to bounce all over the place, you've often got to aim through some very narrow spots, some real Top Gun Maverick type stuff, and there's a time crunch too, because if you don't beat the boss by the time the stage ends, that counts as a death. Even though it can be frustrating to lose your bullets on the return trip, the Breakout-style weapon system is a fantastic concept, it's novel, and it's exciting when you get a bunch of ammo all at once and you get to really unload on a big boss. The maneuvering could be smoother, and the hitboxes of ships and walls are often unclear and unforgiving. Fortunately, each stage only lasts for a few minutes, so dying isn't the worst thing in the world. In that respect, it really does embrace the arcade spirit. This is a game you're meant to play and replay until you've memorized some of the more precise movements you need to make and mastered the techniques for approaching each individual boss. For better and worse, this one really does feel like an old Game Boy game. A lot of the Playdate's games have elements of nostalgia and are throwbacks to early handheld titles, but this one really does feel like a game that could have existed in 1992 with no changes. Call me shallow, but if this one had a prettier coat of paint on it, less grating music, and slightly smoother controls, I'd be a lot more enthusiastic about it. That said, for a specific audience, I imagine it will hit a lot of the right marks. Aesthetics aside, it's a cool little shoot 'em up for anyone who likes old school flair and a good challenge. The other Week 11 game is another side-scroller, this time a side-scrolling platformer called Forrest Byrnes Up in Smoke. No relation. Developed by Nels Anderson and Christina Neofetistou, this is a spin-off of Panic's excellent Firewatch, which I recommend everyone play if you haven't already. In this one, you play as a cute little forest fire mascot guy named Forrest Byrnes. just in case anybody didn't get that yet. And you've got to make your way to the end of each level before you're subsumed by a raging fire. Along the way, you'll make use of your trusty shovel, no relation, to rescue campers, knock down environmental obstacles, or bounce to higher platforms. There are also little badges to collect which will give you extra lives, and puzzle pieces which will help you complete forest fire awareness posters in your collection. At first glance, Forrest Byrnes looks a lot like any standard platforming game. You run, jump, avoid obstacles, and find the exit. What makes it a little bit weirder than most is its structure, or a lack thereof. There's no world map, and there's also no record that you've completed any levels at all other than your puzzle pieces. That's because every level is randomly generated. Every time you start, you're getting a brand new level with a familiar but different arrangement of platforms, collectibles, and people to save. I guess it's technically a roguelike? I don't know. I'm not going to worry about that right now. Let me know in the comments if you think it is or isn't. Structure aside, the platforming mechanics in Forrest Byrnes are really solid. I found it occasionally a bit awkward to figure out where to position myself to dig people and things out of the ground, or to judge whether or not I could safely jump a gap, but other than that, the controls are responsive and it's fun to bounce around on a shovel. It looks good too. I love the art style, kind of a throwback to Dudley Do-Right era cartoons and 50s company mascots. It's got all the markings of a great platformer, but then you finish a level and it takes you back to the main menu and you realize, oh, there's not really anything of substance to do here. After each level, you get a grade based on what percentage of stuff you managed to collect, and that's great, except there's really no incentive to go for a good grade because there's no record of it kept anywhere, and you don't unlock anything for it, and you'll never play the same level twice, so it's not like you can go back and pick up the items you missed and try to get a better score later. It's just gone. Extra lives aren't that appealing either when a level only lasts 2 minutes, and when you die, it's gone forever anyway. The only real driving reason to keep playing then is to collect puzzle pieces, as they are the one permanent indicator of your progress. Collect them all and the game acknowledges you got 100% completion, but there's nothing else to do from there but keep playing random levels for the hell of it. If it sounds like I'm ragging on this one a lot, I don't mean to be. Like I said, I do think it's a lot of fun to play, and I enjoyed my time with it trying to get all the puzzle pieces. I even stopped to try and collect all the stuff along the way, just because my primitive gamer brain wouldn't let me ignore it. I was entertained, but I can't deny that it's weird how loose the game's structure is. If this was a traditional platformer with intentionally designed levels and bosses, I'd be all over it. I also don't think the concept of the randomly generated levels is inherently bad, but it needs something to mark your progress and give you a sense of accomplishment, otherwise it all just starts to feel pointless. Forrest Byrnes is a mixed bag. Ultimately, I am more positive on it than I think other people may be, but it definitely plays more like a proof of concept than an actual game. So this week we had Battleship Godios, a game I think looks, frankly, terrible, but plays pretty well, and Forrest Byrnes, which looks great, but doesn't end up going anywhere. Both are a little weird, a little experimental, but they are fun in small doses. Let me know what you think of these games in the comments, and find my reviews of all the other Season 1 Playdate games elsewhere on the channel. Playdate only has 1 week left to impress me, so stay tuned and subscribe so you don't miss the Season 1 finale.